Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And today we are talking about the local treasure that can't be displayed in the museum. What a bait of a title! What an interesting topic! Let's dive right into it, eh?
Yeah. Um, the location in question is Montenegro, specifically a municipality with more L's and J's than I care to ever see in a word.
Yeah, that is a very intricate pronunciation that I don't think any of us are capable of saying.
That is, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, proof of a lovely local language. Isn't that beautiful? Um, anyway, the artifact in question is a diatrata, or diatratum, which is a very beautiful glass cup spun in a little cage. Um, and
It's a nice cup. God
That is a
damn,
very
honestly.
beautiful cup, especially the inscription on the top.
Oh yeah, let's just wait. Like this is yeah, it is a fourth century Roman glasswork cup, and it is very much the pinnacle of eloquence here. Um,
The glass came from Cologne, right? That's what I'm reading.
yes, I
So
believe
it would have
so.
been made in Cologne, Germany.
Yeah, one of the famous Cologne workshops.
Yeah,
So they were
Oh,
known for their glasswork.
yeah.
Justin. The script is Vivus Harini Bona et Memoria.
Live
Oh,
Penhellenius in good memory.
so I learned about this recently. So sometimes if you can't, apparently linguistically, the Romans start dropping. I think it's the letter H. I think it was either the letter H or the letter G. So you see a vernacular change, but because when they leave out certain letters,
There are
I think it was H.
there are yeah, I think it's H because I remember when I was studying Latin there was um a pronunciation guide from like the first or second century
Yeah,
that was telling students it's it's pronounced and it emphasized those letters, not the letters gone.
yeah,
It's like
because if you're not writing on ink,
yeah.
if you're writing something like in glass, and if you don't say the letter, why would you put it in a script?
Yeah, it was just one of those things where, like, people were trying to control the drift of accent and language for Latin. It was just very funny watching proof that old people never change.
Yeah,
These
really.
kids and their youthful
Their slang.
slang.
Yeah, but yeah. But back to the diatrium at hand.
Oh, boo.
Um,
So cool.
the yeah, this lovely little piece. Unfortunately, it can't be displayed in the museums out there in the municipality in which it was found, which is really quite a sad thing. And the reason for this is doesn't so much have to do with the artifact, but has to do with the museum
Which
itself.
I do, before you continue, I do want to highlight that the paint and the finish on the cup is original. It has not been restored.
You're shitting me. That is
That
great.
is
And it's
original.
Yeah,
blue.
there is the reason why this cup in particular is considered a national treasure because it aside from the obvious minor damage, it looks about as pristine as it was the day it went in the ground.
It is
Damn.
one of the most complete versions of this cup. And in that area, they have also found fragments and different shards of other diatreme.
Dude,
Yeah,
somebody was living
yeah.
nice out
I
there.
want to say it was either 50 shards or shards believed to belong to 50 different cups. I'm not sure. I may have read a sentence
I
backwards.
think they do. I think they do it similar to how they identify minimum number of humans in large burial grounds. I think they do
Yeah.
minimum vessels, minimum number of vessels. Oh, Cullum, don't you remember we did that lovely task in one of our classes where we had to figure out how many vessels were present based off of the shirts.
I did not like
Was that the one with Sam Pack?
I did not like that.
Yes, with one of our professors.
Yes, I do not I do not like working with that. But anyway, the reason why the local museums can't display it, which is a real shame because it's a local treasure. It's found in this municipality. This municipality has its own museum dedicated to the history of the area. But the reason it can't be displayed is actually a fairly pragmatic one and in the best interest of the artifact, which is really the key here. As much as we are saddened that it can't be displayed by this museum, because the museum itself, in order to properly care for this artifact, would require the implementation of special pedestals, special containers,
light controls, weather controls, everything, environment.
This thing would require, for proper preservation, would require all these things, which the museum is not in a position to provide, especially for the level of care we would dedicate to something as unique and as profound as this cup. We would, the standards for preserving that would be higher than for most other objects. And the museum itself admits that in order to implement everything it needs to look after this cup, it would have to build an entire new building with an entire new temperature and air conditioning setup, which is a massive undertaking.
That's a lot of money.
It very much is a catch-22, because obviously the first instinct that people are going to have is, it belongs in a museum, Indiana Jones style. But in reality, a lot of times museums don't have the infrastructure. Quite frankly, we need to just talk about the curation crisis, because a lot of museums don't even have space for a lot of artifacts. It's something that, they're just not funded enough for it.
Oh god, the Field Museum. They have so much there that they just can't display.
They haven't taken a new specimen at the Field Museum in almost 100 years. I'm sure the exception now is with Maximo and the new dinosaurs, but their collections have remained
Spinosaurus.
Their collections have remained stagnant.
Yeah, and even the Smithsonian Catacombs, there is an entire maze under most of Washington D.C. that is dedicated to housing artifacts that are not on display in the Smithsonian museums.
The only kind of new stuff they would really get in are the traveling exhibits, but those aren't owned by them.
Those don't stay in you. They don't count as part of your curation, really.
Yeah,
they count as part of your care while they're there, but they don't count as your curation.
So,
and all this isn't even getting into the physical security you would have to place around an object like this.
Yeah, because
it's beautiful, it's rare, it's obviously valuable. People tend to steal things like that. I will say, I don't believe this object deserves to go back in the ground. I would want it stored somewhere.
Yeah.
A different museum, perhaps. It is sad that it can't go to the local museum, but I would like to see it somewhere in or around Montenegro, even if it's not on display, just for the sake of keeping something like this alive and well and safe.
Or honestly, I would like to see the funding be dredged together, hopefully from federal and municipal governments, to build a facility near there, because as the initial picture shows, they're still doing excavations at this site. You can put together a great museum, and tourism is innately linked to museums.
Yeah,
and there should be an international funding for stuff like
this.
Yeah, that'd be nice, but unfortunately there isn't.
Yeah, and I've been in a lot of these European museums. They know how to maximize space. I have seen floor to ceiling, wall to wall to wall, just amphorae in Athens. Just that is the museum. It's just, here is 1,100 vases.
Hell, at the Etruscan Museum and in Rome, they practically they got creative with some of their limited space, where they actually kind of put some of the statues that came from Veii in the similar positions they would have been on the temple, and then they also have a section where it's just the Art Deco on the edges of like temples. They had it like come around. It was really cool. Like stuff that would have been like on the corners and the wall, right? It was really cool. So they can't get creative, but
Yeah.
I
It is interesting though. It poses an interesting question, but I think this is probably the best point to wrap up because something like that is a very cool clickbaity topic, but at the end of the day, there are real logistical issues that present themselves when it comes to museums and curation and long-term storage of the stuff that is found.
Yeah, and I think the purpose of discussing this is to kind of provide a small window into the true logistical nightmare that is, what do we do with this wonderful thing we pulled from the earth?
Unfortunately, it isn't farm-to-table artifacts.
yeah.
And on that note, we'll see you in the next video.